Sonnet 19. In the poem, Sonnet 19, William Shakespeare uses an extended personification of time to highlight the unstoppable progression and the inevitability within. The poet utilizes various animal imageries to elevate the power of time. Through the form of the sonnet, Shakespeare demonstrates a sense of inevitability to the loss of beauty over time. However, with the use of voltas at the end, the poet expresses how the power of art and literature can combat the passage of time, through a challenging tone, "Yet do thy worst." Firstly, Shakespeare opens the poem with the phrase, "devouring time," which immediately addresses the main subject of this poem. It is a powerful way to begin this poem, as the consonant sounds, d, and t, are the voiced and unvoiced versions of the same consonant. At the same time, the sound of ing and m are similarly related. These consonant pairs complement the connotations of devouring, which is animalistic, beastly and voracious. It begins the poem in a strikingly more violent, powerful tone than the previous sonnets. The participial adjective, devouring, describes an enthusiastic action of eating and consuming which connotes a sense of power and greed, such as a wolf devours its prey. Through this, Shakespeare immediately puts time in a higher power that has an aggressive, insatiable desire. Moreover, the theme of power and authority of time is resumed with violent animalistic imagery in the following line, "Blunt thou the lion's paws," and "Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws." Through this, Shakespeare emphasizes the dominance and control that time has. Lions and tigers are both apex predators, which are some of the most powerful animals on Earth. The lion's paws and tiger's teeth cause damage, but at the same time, they are ephemeral things. By removing the strength of the lion and tiger, the power of time is heightened as it shows carelessness and eases harm to animals at the top of the food chain due to the passage of time. In addition, Shakespeare uses an allusion to a powerful mythical creature, the phoenix. Legend states that the bird will live for 500 years before bursting into flame, and rebirth from its ashes. Shakespeare gives time the ability to destroy this powerful and long-lived creature and uses plosive alliteration of the repetition of b sounds in burn and blood to show how he destroys it horrifically, which is a callback to the cruelty of time. The personification of time is highlighted by the use of uppercase T throughout the poem. Through the constant capitalization, time is not only personified but also deified, as God is often referenced with a capitalized letter to show respect and courtesy. At the same time, earth is also personified with the line, "Make the earth devour her own sweet brood." It suggests a distressing image that conjures up the impression of a mother being forced to eat her children. Meanwhile, it also implies a natural image of decay, as all living things come from and return to the earth. The phrase, "make the earth devour," can be an allusion to the Roman god Saturn. In mythology, Saturn ate each one of his children upon their births because he was afraid of being overthrown. Shakespeare uses similar imagery in his play Titus Andronicus when Queen Timora eats her sons. In this sonnet, the poet faces up one of the most fundamental facts of human existence: the transience of all things, even those of the greatest power and beauty, and including those most loved. In seizing on this theme, Shakespeare echoed a passage from Ovid's Metamorphoses, a source he turned to often. "Time, the devourer, and the jealous years that pass, destroy all things and, nibbling them away, consume them gradually in a lingering death." Shakespeare also gives time power by giving it imperatives with plosive sounds to use in the first half of the poem, for example, blunt, devour, pluck, and burn. The imperatives give time more control and describe the powerful havoc time wreaks upon nature, which emphasizes its power. The plosive consonants also create an aggressive and harsh sounding, which mirrors the aggressive acts time performs. The verbs are chosen carefully, such as, "pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws," emphasizing the carelessness and ease with which it manages to harm animals at the top of the food chain. However, the first volta is displaced at the line, "But I forbid thee one more heinous crime," which becomes the initial turning point in this sonnet. As the speaker has built up an argument and the evidence about the fact that time destroys all things in previous lines, this line contains a tonal shift that is deviated from passive acceptance to a more assertive tone. Shakespeare describes time as a criminal with the phrase, heinous crime. The alternate rhyme in time and crime attaches the abstract noun, time, with a concrete action, crime, making the reader associate time with a pejorative connotation. The imperative verb, forbid, highlights the challenging and commanding shift in tone from the poetic voice. The adjective, heinous, describes the great extent to which the speaker believes time is being immoral and is doing a wrongful act. It also highlights the importance of the beauty of youth for Shakespeare. As a natural and inevitable consequence of life is defined as crime for Shakespeare, hinting at the significance of aesthetic beauty in the poet's eye. From the line, one more heinous crime, O carve not, the use of the colon here utilizes a caesura to create a pause at the end of the line which heightens the importance of the next lines. This produces a cataphoric reference where the speaker is indicating to us to observe clearly what he is about to say. The exclamative, O sound at the beginning of the next line creates a plaintive tone where the speaker seems to be begging, pleading and complaining about time's movement. The speaker asks time to reconsider affecting the lover, as this seems to be indescribably cruel and tragic for a man who is defined by his youthful beauty to lose this trait. As Shakespeare states, carve not with the hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thin antique pen, it means that he does not wish to see wrinkles on his lover's forehead. They seem to be pitiful to the fact that time destroys the beauty of youth and uses imperative verbs, carve not, and, draw no. The verbs first give strength to the speaker's words then immediately neglect them, which makes the tone of the poetic voice more assertive and forceful. This emphasizes on the speaker's argument as they acknowledge that time destroys everything, especially beauty. The poet uses a group of adjectives that describes beauty such as, young, and, fair, with contrasting words such as, wilt, and, fading. The latter group of words appears before the adjectives that describe beauty, which gives a sense that the effect of time on beauty has already taken place before the persona got the chance to speak about it, which gives a sense of inevitability to the loss of beauty over time. With the metaphor, beauty's pattern, the speaker suggests that a pattern of beauty lies within the lover's face, that there are some specific standards of beauty that he holds true to, and that this type of beauty should serve as an example for other men in the future to copy. It implies that beauty can have an inherent aesthetic, surface value, quality to it, that the shape and design of some things that can be found on earth are just certainly beautiful, that they inspire a feeling of love or awe in us. This is contrasted with the modern perspective on beauty, which is typically more focused on inner qualities than aesthetics. In the final couplet of the poem, the tone of the poetic voice switches again, becoming more confrontational towards the subject, time. Through the phrase, yet do thy worst, the speaker becomes standing in defiance of the aging process as if he has found a solution against the natural decay of human life. Shakespeare describes the aging process and mortality as thy wrong, suggesting it's the fault of time as opposed to being part of the natural order of existence. In the final line of the sonnet, he proposes a solution to defy time, which is poetry. He says, "The young man, shall in my verse ever live young," as the continued reading and study of the poem will bear testament to the fact that he was beautiful. Throughout the poem, the mode of address to describe time has changed. The speaker first refers to time as swift-footed and fleeting, showing the reckless, careless speed at which time performs its reverential imperatives. It also suggests the unstoppable change of time and the progression within, thus time is implied with powerful and rapid abilities. This makes the reader feel no sympathy for time, because it annihilates so quickly he does not have remorse for his actions. In contrast, in the penultimate line, the poet uses the phrase, old time. The speaker uses the adjective, old, to create a kind of contradictory feeling to his relationship to time. Though time controls the passing of the days, hours and weeks, the speaker is suggesting that time itself is old, perhaps an outdated concept or something less powerful than the speaker's own new and refreshing take to his art. He feels that he can beat time through his poetry, which will continue to be read and reprinted for years after both himself and the subject have passed on. In traditional literature, time is often personified as, Old Father Time, or, Chronos, as he is known in Greek mythology, Thus, Shakespeare might be drawing upon the reference when he calls time, old. This also complements the depiction of earth as a feminine presence that gives life and time as a masculine presence that takes it away. In conclusion, Shakespeare uses a sonnet that traditionally deals with unobtainable love but uses it to describe mortality, beauty and the effect of time. Using an extended personification of time, the poet illustrates the power of time with the contrast of the strength of the animal imagery and mystical creatures. The first volta in the sonnet highlights one of the main themes in the poem, aesthetic beauty. Though it is focused on aesthetics, the poet also connected to the inner attitude of the man. At the final rhyming couplet, Shakespeare becomes more defiant and brings out the final argument of the sonnet: how the power of art and literature will preserve the beauty of youth and triumph under the power of time.